Well, Donald Trump has said that tariffs on pharmaceutical imports could reach 250%, which is actually the steepest rate he has proposed for this sector.
He has signed 17 letters to pharmaceutical companies' CEOs, and I would like to read you one of these letters to the CEO of Eli Lilly.
President Trump is imposing an additional 25% tariff on India. Here's this post coming in here from the Associated Press. President Trump signed an executive order today to place that additional 25% tariff on India for its purchases of Russian oil, bringing the combined tariffs imposed by the U.S. on India to 50%.
We settled on 25%, but I think I'm going to raise that very substantially over the next 24 hours because they're buying Russian oil, they're fueling the war machine, and if they're going to do that, then I'm not going to be happy.
Imagine waking up to find your usual medication suddenly costing twice or even 3 times more. That's not just a bad dream. It could become reality. Former President Donald Trump is reportedly preparing to slap pharmaceutical imports with tariffs that could soar to an eye-watering 250%. That's not a typo. It's a dramatic escalation that would shake global drug markets. For perspective, most U.S. import tariffs are just a few percentage points. So, jumping to 250% isn't just aggressive, it's practically unheard of in modern trade. But this isn't an isolated move. It's part of a much larger trade strategy that's turning global commerce on its head. Everything from advanced electronics to basic household goods is now in the crosshairs. If the previous trade wars seemed intense, this new wave could eclipse them entirely. Quick reminder before we continue, hit that like button to help boost this video in the algorithm. Trump's latest approach is wide-reaching. This isn't about targeting one country or one sector. It's a sweeping offensive aimed at bringing supply chains back home and using tariffs as the blunt force to do it. Longtime allies and rival nations alike are feeling the heat. Even semiconductor chips, the tiny components that keep our smartphones, cars, and computers running, are reportedly next on the list for new import penalties. And it's not just about products. Trump is also pressuring the European Union, warning of major consequences if they don't come through with a promised $600 billion investment in U.S. infrastructure and businesses. It's a bold play, one that's shaking boardrooms worldwide. Meanwhile, not everyone is standing still. At least one major U.S. trading partner has managed to dodge these new tariffs for now. They've negotiated a last-minute deal to buy themselves some time. So who is this country? And what did they offer to get off the hook? We'll break it all down in just a moment. But first, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so you never miss a major global update like this one. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that like button. It's a small click for you, but a huge boost for the channel. Now, imagine walking into your pharmacy next year and finding your usual prescription meds now cost twice or even 3 times more. Sound extreme? That's exactly what could happen under Donald Trump's bold new trade offensive. In a recent TV interview, the former president outlined a plan to slap massive tariffs on imported pharmaceuticals, starting small but ramping up to an eye-watering 250% over the next 12 to 18 months. According to Trump, it's about one thing: bringing drug manufacturing back to American soil. He singled out countries like China and Ireland, which currently produce a large chunk of the medications Americans rely on. Under his proposal, if pharmaceutical companies want to keep selling in the U.S., they'll need to build factories here or face pricing themselves out of the market. To put that in perspective, during his first term, the harshest tariff he levied on Chinese goods was about 25%. This new plan is 10x higher, a scale almost unheard of outside full-blown sanctions. Supporters call it a power move. They argue it'll finally force Big Pharma to stop outsourcing and make the U.S. self-reliant in medicine. But critics are sounding alarms. Health analysts warn that prices could spike before any new factories are built. And if supply chains break down too fast, shortages of essential drugs could follow. Then there's the global fallout. Trade partners may hit back with tariffs of their own. Even America's allies are on edge. Trump has already warned the European Union, if they don't come through with a $600 billion investment in U.S. projects, they'll be next on his tariff list. This isn't just about medicine. It's about rewriting the rules of global trade, one shockwave at a time. And now, the pressure isn't just building on rivals like China or regional players like Mexico. It's sweeping across the Atlantic and landing squarely on the doorstep of the European Union. In a move that stunned many diplomats, Washington has delivered a bold demand: inject $600 billion into American infrastructure and business projects, or brace for a new wave of punishing tariffs. Yes, you heard that right, $600 billion. The origin of that figure remains unclear. Most experts believe it stems from broad and vague European pledges made during past global summits to help fund joint development and infrastructure initiatives. But Trump isn't treating those words as symbolic or aspirational. He's framing them as a solid financial commitment. And if the EU doesn't pony up, tariffs could come crashing down fast. Just a few weeks ago, European leaders believed they had sidestepped a trade war by signing a temporary agreement with the Trump administration. That deal capped U.S. tariffs on many EU exports at 15%, a gesture seen as a compromise, a pause in escalating tensions. But now, with Trump layering on this new $600 billion demand, that temporary truce is unraveling. Leaders in Brussels are now scrambling to decode what was actually promised, if anything, and how to navigate this without triggering political backlash at home. Already, some EU lawmakers are crying foul, calling the demand a form of economic coercion that could set a dangerous precedent. But time is ticking, and U.S. tariffs loom large. Meanwhile, Trump's tariff offensive is going global. India has also landed in his crosshairs. Over the past week, Trump has threatened to impose steep tariffs on Indian exports within just 24 hours, unless New Delhi backs off two key issues: its ongoing purchase of Russian oil and what he calls India's excessively high tariffs on American products. Though India reportedly offered to cut some tariffs, Trump dismissed it as insufficient. Indian officials argue that Europe still buys Russian gas, and even the U.S. imports Russian materials like uranium. So why single out India? But Trump's message is firm: align with U.S. trade demands or face the consequences. From Brussels to New Delhi, global leaders are now racing to respond before the next economic shockwave hits. Tensions between the U.S. and India are rising, and Trump's latest tariff threats have put the world's largest democracy directly in the hot seat. Despite reportedly offering a limited deal to reduce tariffs on some U.S. products, India hasn't escaped Washington's radar. Why? Because of one major sticking point: oil. India continues to buy large amounts of crude oil from Russia, even with U.S. sanctions still in place. And Trump isn't happy. He's made it clear: unless India cuts ties with Moscow on energy, no trade gesture will be enough to stop the pressure. India, for its part, is pushing back hard. Officials in New Delhi are calling out what they see as a double standard. They point out that several European countries still do big business with Russia, including massive natural gas purchases. And the United States itself continues to import Russian goods like uranium and fertilizer. So from India's perspective, they're being unfairly targeted for protecting their own energy interests, something every country does. And despite the looming threat of heavy tariffs, India says it's not backing down. They'll keep importing oil to meet national demand, even if it puts them on a collision course with Washington. The fallout has sparked a rare public strain in U.S.-India relations. Just a few years ago, the two countries were aligning closer than ever, united by a shared goal of counterbalancing China's global influence. But now, that bond is being tested by a tough and unpredictable trade environment. To make matters more tense, Trump's comments suggest that India could be hit with new tariffs within just 24 hours if it doesn't shift course. It's an aggressive posture, one that has left policymakers in New Delhi scrambling for options. All of this feeds into a much bigger story. Trump's trade strategy isn't just about punishing bad actors. It's about reshaping alliances, breaking traditional rules, and redrawing the global economic map. And right now, India is finding out what that really means the hard way.